The lantern by my window sputters, fighting the wind as if it knows what's coming. Outside, it's the year 1890, and the world feels wrongly thin, stretched too tight, like something unseen is pressing against it from the other side. Footsteps echo down the lane long after the road's gone empty, and the dogs stopped barking hours ago. The moon hangs low and bone-pale over the fields, painting everything in the color of ghosts. Smoke from dying bonfires crawls through the village, clinging to doorways and whispering against the shutters. Every door is bolted, every mirror turned to the wall. And still, something moves out there, slow, certain, watching. It's been here before long, before us, and tonight, it remembers the names we've tried to forget. A sound breaks the stillness, soft at first, almost polite. 3 slow knocks against the window pane. The lantern flares once, gasps out, and the room sinks into black. Outside, something drags across the porch boards, slow, deliberate, like fingertips testing the grain of the wood. Then, just beneath the howling wind, a voice, a whisper that isn't quite words, but somehow, it says your name. Drawn to the dark tonight? Like, subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from. Somewhere, another soul is hearing this same wind and wondering if it's just the trees or something older brushing past. Tonight, we step back to the Halloween of 1890, when rituals ruled the dark, when lanterns were carved from turnips, not pumpkins, and when whispers of witches still clung to every shadow. Together, we'll uncover the forgotten rites that bound the living to the dead, and what happens when those old beliefs refuse to fade. The wind shifts before dawn, sighing through the thatched roofs and across the black fields beyond. You lie awake beneath a quilt that smells faintly of smoke and cold wool, listening to the house breathe. The rafters groan, the window pane trembles. Somewhere, a latch taps gently, as if a hand were testing it from the other side. The fire has long gone out, but its ghost lingers, a thin, acrid sweetness that clings to the air like regret. The clock downstairs ticks unevenly, refusing to settle into rhythm. It's the last night of October, 1890. The kind of night when silence feels watched. You rise barefoot, the floor biting your skin with its chill. The candle on your table is little more than a stump, wax curled over like the lip of an old wound. You strike a match, sulfur flares, trembling, and for an instant, the flame shows the room in fragments. The cracked jug, the Bible open to a page about resurrection, your coat folded neatly, though you never remember doing it. The air tastes metallic, touched by frost. Outside, something creaks the sign at the inn, or maybe the elm tree bending under the new wind. Your breath clouds in front of you. It disappears too fast. When you unlatch the window, the wind doesn't rush in, it waits. Then, slow and deliberate, it slips past you, carrying the scent of damp earth and iron. The village sleeps below, roofs hunched like old shoulders, chimneys leaking faint trails of smoke. A dog barks once, cut short. The sky is low and heavy, a bruise of grey and violet. Somewhere far off, a bell rings, not a full chime, just one uncertain note. It quivers through the air like a thread pulled too tight. You know that sound. Every year, the old women call it the turning the breath between seasons, when the living forget to close the door. The candle flickers, leans toward the window, then steadies again. You think of the tales your grandmother told by the hearth, how the dead grow curious when the nights stretch long, how they follow warmth like moths to a lantern. You used to laugh at her stories, but now the laughter feels out of place. The wind has teeth, the walls seem to listen. Downstairs, the kettle rattles once on the cold stove, though no one's there to touch it. You step back from the window and pull the curtains closed, leaving only a sliver of moonlight to cut across the floorboards. It finds your hand, pale against the dark, and for a heartbeat you think the light moves with you, not against you. You tell yourself it's just the wind. But outside, the trees lean closer, as if waiting to hear what you'll say next. The night has changed direction. and with it, something unseen has found its way home. The road is narrow, the stones slick with frost, and every few steps your lantern throws its light against another face, hollowed turnips lined along the fences, their crooked grins wet with dew. They watch you pass like sentinels, their wax eyes trembling with small, unsteady flames. Someone carved them by hand earlier in the day, the careful, fearful work of people who still believe the dark must be fed a little light to stay quiet. The smell of smoke and soil follows you, mingling with something sharper, older, the faint sweetness of decay. You walk slowly, careful not to disturb the hush that hangs over the village. Every window holds its own lantern, glowing behind lace curtains. You can hear them flicker. The light seems too soft to hold back the night, and yet everyone believes it will. A child's voice drifts from one of the cottages, a lullaby, old and cracked with superstition. Light for the lost, and none for the found. The tune fades before the last note. You tell yourself it's only a song, but you've heard it before, whispered at funerals, hummed by mothers when the fog refused to lift. The wind moves again, and every flame bends in the same direction, as if bowing to something unseen. Your own lantern sputters, glass clouded by your breath. The light feels fragile in your hand, a heartbeat in glass. At the edge of the road, an old woman crouches by her doorstep, muttering over a bowl of salt. She doesn't look up when you pass, only tips her head slightly, listening for footsteps that aren't yours. Behind her, a door slams without touch. The wind doesn't stop it, it simply moves on, indifferent. Further ahead, the church stands dark against the low sky. No bells tonight. The priest said they would rest until morning. Too much ringing invites attention. The lanterns on the fence posts lead all the way to the graveyard gate, and beyond it, the ground dips into mist. For a moment, you think you see shapes moving among the stones, a trick of the eyes perhaps, or the way the fog curls upward like smoke. You blink, and the movement stops. Only the faint gleam of candlelight remains, flickering over names that no one has spoken in years. You stop beside the last lantern in the line. Its flame dances unevenly, bright one moment, faint the next, as though it struggles against an unseen breath. You lift it gently, shielding it from the cold. Through the glass, the world warps soft, dreamlike, unreal. For a heartbeat, the reflection staring back isn't yours. It's smiling. You close your eyes, count 3 slow breaths, and set the lantern down. When you open them again, every other light on the road is still. Not extinguished, just waiting. The wind curls through the turnips once more, and all at once the flames lean toward the churchyard. The night exhales. The lanterns answer. And for the first time, you understand why the living light their fires in a line, not to keep the dark away, but to guide something home. The path divides just beyond the last cottage, one road toward the river, another toward the hills, and the third no one ever takes after sundown. You stop where they meet, the mud slick under your boots, the wind colder here as if it has nowhere else to go. 4 roads forming a cross, 4 directions for the living, and one for those who never left. The lantern light trembles in your hand, thin and gold against the grey. You've been told the crossroads remembers everything buried in silence. Tonight, it wants to speak. The trees on either side lean inward, their branches whispering to one another in the dark. The sound is soft at first, just a rustle, then it shapes itself into rhythm, like words half-formed. You listen, straining to catch them. They come between gusts, hushed and broken. Come back, come back. The voice could be the wind, but when it calls again, it sounds like your own name. Your pulse stumbles. The flame inside your lantern gutters low, throwing shadows that stretch too long across the ground. You've heard the stories how travelers used to bury the dead here, those without kin or priest. The earth beneath your feet is restless with that memory. Somewhere below the surface, old coins glint beside bones, and ribbons of cloth rot in the soil like forgotten prayers. Every October, the villagers lay an offering where the roads cross a loaf of bread, a bowl of milk, or, if fear outweighs faith, a lock of hair. It's meant to keep the whispering kind, to make the unseen pass by without taking notice. Tonight, someone has left nothing. The bowl sits overturned, milk frozen pale on the dirt. You crouch beside it, tracing the edge of the imprint it left. The air tastes different here, copper and rain. The wind dies for a moment, and in the stillness you hear footsteps approach. Not quick, not slow, just steady, coming down one of the unseen roads. The fog parts slightly, enough to show movement, a coat perhaps, or the outline of one. You lift your lantern higher, but the light bends away from the shape instead of revealing it. It stops a few paces short of you. Then, in a voice that sounds almost like yours, it asks, "Which way home?" Your throat tightens, but no answer comes. The words hang between you, heavy as frost. You realize the crossroads isn't asking a question, it's repeating one. A plea left over from someone who never found the right path. The flame inside your lantern flares once, white and brilliant, then drops to a trembling pin of light. You turn and walk quickly toward the village, not daring to look back. Behind you, the wind returns, low and careful, gathering the dust into small spirals. It hums softly, pleased. The bowl is upright again. The milk is gone. And the next breath of air carries a faint echo, a whisper that will follow you all the way home, your name, spoken by something that has finally remembered it. By morning, the fog has not lifted. It drifts through the lanes like a living thing pressing against windows, soaking into clothes. The world feels blurred at the edges, as if someone has rubbed away its sharpness with their thumb. You stand at the doorway, a pitcher in hand, the milk still warm from the cow. It's your turn this year, that's what your grandmother said. Every household takes one night in October to make the offering, and now it's yours. You don't remember when it became tradition. No one does. They only know it keeps the peace. You step outside. The grass crunches faintly beneath your boots, and the air smells of cold stone and wood smoke. The village sleeps, but not soundly. You can feel its breath, shallow and watchful. At the end of the path, the gate creaks as you open it. You pour the milk carefully into a small blue bowl, the one your mother once used for sugar. A single white thread of steam rises from it, twisting in the grey light. You set it on the doorstep, just beside the iron hinge where the wind won't spill it. Then, quietly, you whisper the names. 3 of them old ones, worn smooth by time. Your grandmother told you to never forget a name once you speak it. Names, she said, are doors. The fog thickens. You stay still, breath shallow. It's said the dead come to drink before dawn, when the world is too tired to notice. They don't like to be watched. You glance toward the road anyway, out of habit or defiance, and see faint movement, the outline of someone walking between the houses, pale against the dark. The step is slow, deliberate. Whoever it is carries no lantern. The figure stops near the baker's door, bends and straightens again. You can't see the face, only the motion, graceful, unhurried, familiar. Then it turns toward you. For a heartbeat, your pulse stops. The face is your own. Not a perfect reflection, but near enough, the same shape, the same tilt of the head. Its eyes catch what little light there is, and they gleam like the surface of the milk. You blink, and it's gone. Only the fog remains, curling through the hedges like breath from something enormous. You retreat inside and bolt the door, heart pounding against your ribs. The clock says it's almost 5, the hour when the sky begins to bruise with dawn. You sit by the window, waiting for the light to find the bowl again. When it does, you lean close. The milk is gone, but the bowl isn't empty. Inside lies a single pale petal, damp and trembling. You don't know the flower, it doesn't grow here. You touch it, and the smell rises, faintly sweet and cold. It smells like the past or something older still. Outside, the fog begins to pull away from the earth, retreating toward the woods. The rooftops glimmer wetly in the first light of morning. Somewhere, a rooster calls, though it sounds uncertain, almost reluctant. The day returns, but it feels thinner, as if the night has taken a small piece of it with her. On the step, the bowl sits clean and glistening, a hollow promise ready to be filled again next year. The house feels heavier after dusk, as if its beams remember the weight of every story told inside it. The candlelight trembles on the walls, drawing small halos around the cracks in the plaster. You should be asleep, but the thought won't leave you alone, that old superstition, passed like a secret from mouth to mouth. If you light a single candle at midnight and look into a mirror, you'll see the truth waiting there. You told yourself it was nonsense, and yet here you are, with wax and flame and curiosity that feels a little too much like fear. The clock downstairs strikes 12, slow and deliberate, as if it wants to be heard by more than the living. You draw the curtains tight and place the mirror on the table. Its surface is dark, swallowing the light. For a moment you see nothing, only the trembling flame and the faint outline of your face behind it. Then the glass begins to breathe. The air near it warps, faintly alive, the candle sputtering in the draught that isn't there. Your reflection blinks a heartbeat out of time with you. You lean closer. The mirror is old, it's silvering, clouded, but what looks back seems sharper, clearer. Your reflection's mouth moves not much, just enough to notice. The shape of it could be a word. The flame bends toward the glass, a thin yellow tongue tasting the air. The room smells of wax, smoke, and something faintly sweet, apple peel maybe, or rot hidden under fruit. You whisper your own name, quiet enough that the sound hardly leaves your throat. The reflection's lips form it perfectly, but the sound that returns is not your voice. It's softer, lower, a voice that has learned patience. The floorboards shift behind you. You turn fast, but the room is empty. The noise might have come from the wind or the settling of the house. Still, when you face the mirror again, something's changed. Your reflection is smiling. The kind of smile people wear at funerals, polite, knowing, cruel by accident. The candle trembles once, twice, then steadies again. You want to look away but can't. The reflection raises its hand, slow and graceful, and places its palm against the glass. Instinct makes you do the same. The surface is warm. For a moment, you feel a heartbeat that isn't yours. Then, as suddenly as it began, the feeling dies. The candle flares bright and goes out. Darkness folds around you, soft and immediate. You stumble back, knocking the chair over, heart hammering loud enough to drown the wind. When you light another match, the mirror is just a mirror again, blank, ordinary, harmless. But where your hand touched the glass, a faint mark remains, pale as frost. You set the mirror face down on the table and cover it with a cloth. The house is silent except for your breathing. Outside, the first rain of November begins to fall, tapping at the windows like fingers asking to be let in. You know better now. You don't answer. You hear it before you see it, a sound sharp enough to slice through the quiet. The morning is dull and grey, the kind of colour that feels wet even when it isn't raining. The fields beyond the village lie still, the last of the harvest bundled and bound in straw. The wind hasn't yet woken, but the air is uneasy, heavy with that strange pause that always comes before something breaks. You step outside, closing the door gently behind you, and the noise comes again, a single crow's cry, long and deliberate. It perches on the gatepost, feathers black as coal dust, eyes bright as drops of ink. The creature doesn't move as you approach. It only tilts its head, watching you the way a man watches the tide, knowing it will come in, knowing there's nothing he can do about it. The others say that crows are omens, messengers for those who've forgotten to pray. You never believed them. Not really. But this one doesn't blink. It opens its beak again, and the sound that comes out is too low, too human. You freeze. The wind stirs just enough to ruffle the bird's feathers. Behind it, the fields shimmer faintly, not light, not shadow, something in between. You take another step forward, boots sinking into the damp earth. The crow shifts its weight but doesn't fly. For a moment, you think you see something small and silver hanging from its claw, a thread of metal or hair or something finer. When it moves, it catches the faintest glint of light. You reach out without thinking, and the crow snaps its beak shut with a sound like breaking twigs. A drop of cold lands on your wrist, not rain blood, just one, bright and round, rolling slowly toward your palm. You look up, but the crow is gone. The air where it sat shivers with heat, though the morning is cold. Beyond the gate the fields stretch pale and silent, as if nothing had ever disturbed them. But then you notice the second crow perched on the roof of your house, and another on the well, and more, a dozen, maybe more, scattered along fences, chimney tops, the branches of the elms, all of them facing the same direction, east. The church bell rings once, though there's no service today. Its tone feels heavier than sound, like iron dropped into water. The crows answer in a low chorus, a sound that vibrates in your ribs. You know then that it isn't warning they bring, it's announcement. The old people used to say that when the crows gather facing east, the dead are walking home. You want to laugh it off, but the words sit too easily in your mouth, like something you've said before. By dusk, the crows are gone, not a feather left behind. The air smells faintly of smoke, and when you pass the church, the door is ajar. Inside, the candles burn, though no one lit them. On the altar lies a single black feather, gleaming as though it has been dipped in oil. You close the door and walk home without looking back, but every shadow along the path seems to tilt its head, listening. The evening settles like ash. The last color drains from the sky, leaving only the thin blue of dying light. You take the narrow path behind the mill, the one that leads past the churchyard. It's shorter than the main road, but no one walks it after dark, not since the graves began to sink. The priest says it's the rain, the soft ground. The old women shake their heads and leave bowls of salt by the gate. You keep walking, boots quiet against the frost-hardened mud. The air smells of damp stone and candle smoke. The first headstones rise out of the fog like teeth. Names carved into lichen, dates long forgotten. You can feel the slope beneath your feet, how the path dips toward the hollow where the oldest graves lie. The mist is thicker there, pooling around the statues until their faces blur. One angel has lost its hands, another its head. Only the wings remain, glistening faintly under the lantern's glow. You lift your light higher, and the flame leans toward the stones, as if drawn to what it shouldn't see. There's a sound, faint, rhythmic. Not the wind, not the trees. You stop to listen. The earth seems to breathe a slow exhale rising through the moss. You crouch low, palm pressed against the soil. It's warm. For a heartbeat, you feel something beneath it, not movement exactly, but a pulse, steady and deliberate. You pull your hand away and wipe it on your coat. The warmth lingers on your skin like a memory. The lantern flickers. You turn toward the church. Its door stands open, just a sliver, enough to show a stripe of light across the path. The bell rope sways gently, though no one pulls it. You think of stepping closer, of asking if someone's there, but the words won't come. The silence is thick, shaped like waiting. From inside the church, a sound answers, soft at first, then clearer, a voice humming, low and tuneless. It's the melody from the old hymn, the one sung for funerals when the ground is too hard to dig. You take one step toward the door, then another. The humming stops. The light goes out. All that remains is the faint scent of wax and something older lilies, maybe, or rot hidden beneath perfume. The bell rope still moves, slow and steady, brushing against the stone floor like a pendulum marking borrowed time. You back away, careful not to turn your back on the door until the mist hides it again. When you reach the edge of the churchyard, the fog thins enough to show the path ahead. Your footprints trail behind you, but they're not alone. A second set follows, lighter, smaller, perfectly in step. You tell yourself they must be yours, distorted by the lantern's light. You don't look down to check. The road bends toward the village. You walk faster, breath fogging the air. Behind you, the bell finally rings once, hollow and long, echoing through the valley. The sound follows you home, thin as thread but unbroken. It keeps time with your heartbeat until both fade into the same uneasy rhythm. The fog lifts by morning, but the silence it leaves behind feels wrong, too clean, too still. The village wears it like a wound that refuses to bleed. People move slower today, eyes lowered, voices careful. Somewhere between the church and the fields lies the hill they never speak of, though everyone knows its name, Hollow Hill. You've seen it from the distance, a soft rise beyond the pastures, nothing remarkable except for the way the grass never grows right. It's said that when the wind comes from the north, you can hear it hum. You set out near dusk, when the sky burns pale orange behind the trees. The path climbs gently, curling through briars and low ferns. Every step dulls the sounds of the village until only your breath remains. The hill waits at the end of the lane, a round silhouette against the dying light. The ground is strange here, soft, as though the earth is hollow beneath your weight. You remember what your grandmother said. Don't whistle near the hill. Don't walk around it after sunset. Don't dig, not even for roots. You tell yourself you only came to look. As the last light fades, the hum begins faint at first, a vibration in the soles of your feet. You crouch, press your palm to the ground. The sound rises through the soil like a heartbeat buried deep below. The air thickens, warm despite the chill. The grass moves, though there's no wind. You hold your lantern close, and for a moment the ground seems to shift a ripple, quick and delicate, running across the surface like breath under skin. The hum grows louder, shaping itself into rhythm. It's not a song, not words, but it feels deliberate, a sound made by something that remembers how to speak. The smell changes too. Damp stone, then iron, then something sweet and faintly rotten. You take a step back, lantern trembling in your hand. The light catches on something in the grass, a sliver of metal, curved and dark. You reach for it before your mind can stop you. It's cold, though the air is warm. The shape fits your hand too well, as if it's been waiting there. You wipe away the dirt and see a small carving along its edge, a pattern that looks like eyes, hundreds of them, staring in silence. A gust of air rushes up from the hill, sharp enough to snuff the lantern. The world collapses into dark. You stumble backward, tripping over roots, the hum now a roar that seems to come from inside your chest. The ground moves again, this time wider, slower, like something large turning beneath the soil. You run. The air smells of lightning. Behind you, the sound swells once more, then stops all at once, cut clean, leaving only your ragged breath and the quick pulse of your heart. By the time you reach the village, the lamps are already burning in every window. No one asks where you've been. They only glance past you toward the fields, as if they know. That night, as you lie in bed, the floorboards tremble faintly, and from far away from under everything the hill hums again, soft and satisfied, like something remembering your name. By morning, the mist has thinned into a pale gold haze. Smoke curls from every chimney, and the smell of yeast drifts through the air, sweet, heavy, comforting if you don't think too long about it. The baker's wife stands in her doorway, apron dusted white, her arms deep in dough. Today is the day of the fortune bread. Every family bakes one before All Hallows Eve, a small round loaf that holds a piece of the year inside it. A coin for luck, a ring for love, a pin for sorrow. You're meant to eat it in silence, so the bread can speak. You help her knead, your palms sinking into the warm, sticky weight. She says the dough remembers every touch, that it keeps count of who means harm and who doesn't. You laugh softly, but she doesn't. Her eyes are pale, like milk skimmed too thin, and her mouth stays pressed into a line. When she speaks again, her voice is low. Last year the ring turned black. The girl who found it drowned before Christmas. You don't ask if she means the color changed before or after. Some things don't need asking. The loaves go into the oven one by one, small and perfect. The air grows thick with heat and cinnamon, but underneath there's a bitter edge, something metallic, something that shouldn't be there. The baker's wife hums an old song. The kind with no beginning, no end, just the same 3 notes circling like moths around a flame. You feel the sound in your bones. When she opens the oven, the bread comes out darker than it should be. She frowns, touches the crust, and pulls her hand away fast burned, though the air is cool. At dusk, the whole village gathers in the square. A long table stands beneath the elm tree, covered with loaves still warm from the fire. The rules are simple. Each person takes a slice without looking. No one may trade, no one may speak until the last crumb is gone. You hold your piece between your fingers. The crust flakes away, soft and fragrant, but the inside is heavy. You break it open. Something glints within. Not gold, not silver darker. You reach in and pull out a sliver of iron, thin as a needle. The metal is cold, and when you turn it in your palm, you see faint letters etched along the side. A name, yours. The bread turns bitter in your mouth. The others keep eating, faces blank in the candlelight. One man coughs softly, another swallows without blinking. The baker's wife watches from the shadows, her burned hand pressed against her apron. When the last bite is gone, she snuffs the lanterns one by one. The smell of bread lingers, thick and heavy, refusing to leave. You walk home under a moon that feels too near, its light sharp as a blade. The iron shard sits in your pocket, warm now, pulsing faintly. Behind you, a single oven door slams shut, though the wind is still. The night tastes of flour, and something sour underneath the flavor of secrets baked too long. By noon the village feels hollow. The air hums faintly, but not with sound, with the absence of it. The bells should have been ringing since morning. It's All Hallows' Eve, after all. Yet the steeple stands quiet against the pale sky, its iron mouth sealed. You pause by the churchyard gate, listening for even the faintest tremor, the familiar echo that usually threads through every corner of the valley. There is none. Only the dry rasp of leaves dragging across stone, the soft creak of a sign shifting in the wind. The priest is nowhere to be seen. The door to the vestry hangs open, a sliver of shadow cutting through the dust. You step inside, the air heavy with the smell of candle grease and old prayers. The ropes hang straight and still, the thick fibers coated in grey dust. You touch one, it's warm, not recently held, but not cold either. The silence around you feels alive, as if the church itself were listening back. The faintest flicker catches your eye, the candle beside the altar trembles, its flame bending toward the bell tower, though there is no draught. You climb the narrow stairwell. Each step creaks beneath your weight, the walls close enough to brush your shoulders. Halfway up, you stop. Someone is breathing. Not above, not below, somewhere inside the walls. Slow, even breaths, as though something asleep has begun to dream. The air tightens, heavy with dust. You keep climbing. At the top, the belfry yawns open to the grey light. Empty but for the bell itself. Massive, still, dark as wet stone. Its edges gleam faintly, damp with condensation or sweat. You can see your reflection in its curve, pale, distorted, wavering. You reach out and place a hand against it. The metal is cool at first, then warmer, pulsing faintly beneath your palm. For a moment, you hear something, not a chime, not a voice, but a vibration so deep it feels inside your ribs. You take your hand away, heart knocking unevenly in your chest. The air smells faintly of iron and ash. You notice then that the rope no longer hangs straight. It sways gently, back and forth, though the bell doesn't move. Below you, the floorboards sigh. A door opens somewhere, followed by soft footsteps too soft to be shoes. You lean out over the railing, but the church below is empty. The pews sit in neat rows, the altar flickering with its single flame. Still, you feel watched. The silence presses closer, thick as cloth. You whisper a single word ring, but it dies before it reaches your lips. Outside, the clouds gather low, a bruise-colored weight pressing against the steeple. The rope gives one slow twist. The bell trembles once, then stops. And from somewhere deep within its hollow heart, you hear the faintest echo, one note, so quiet it might be memory. The silence swallows it whole. When you descend the stairs, your ears ring faintly, though no sound was ever made. That night, as you lie awake, you swear you hear it again, not from the church, but from inside your own chest. A single, muffled chime. A warning or an answer. You don't know which. The storm breaks before dawn. Rain rattles against the shutters, steady and thin, like fingers drumming on glass. You lie awake listening to it, feeling each drop echo through the walls. The village sleeps, but uneasily. Somewhere a door bangs in the wind, and a dog howls, sharp enough to split the silence. You rise, pull on your coat, and light the candle. The wick flares weakly, struggling against the draught. On the table lies a coil of red thread, tangled and dull in the half-light. Your grandmother left it for you before she died, tied in a knot shaped like a loop for keeping count, she'd said. She never explained of what. You wind it around your wrist, twice, as she once showed you. The thread feels rough, almost alive, scratching faintly against your skin. It's an old superstition. The villagers wear it on All Hallows morning to keep spirits from counting their fingers while they sleep. You never believed the story, but the house feels colder this year, emptier. As you tighten the knot, the candle sputters, the flame leans sideways toward the door. You hear something outside, the slow drag of boots across wet stone. When you open the door, the street is empty, only rain, pooling in shallow puddles that mirror the clouds above. You step out anyway, the red thread bright against your wrist. The water glows faintly when the lightning flashes, and for a heartbeat, you see footprints, small, bare, leading from your doorstep toward the fields. They vanish in seconds, swallowed by the rain. You follow them anyway, your lantern swaying in your hand. The air smells of iron and wet earth, the way a grave smells after being opened. The path narrows past the hedgerows. Every shadow looks too full. The trees lean in, dripping with rain, their branches bending like arms. Then you see it, a figure ahead, standing in the middle of the path. Too still to be living, too solid to be missed. You lift your lantern, and the light catches something around its wrist, a flash of red. The same thread, tied the same way. You stop. The figure tilts its head, slow, curious. Then, as lightning cracks the sky open, it steps forward. You can see its face, yours. The lantern slips from your hand and hisses out in the mud. The world goes black. You stumble backward, tripping over roots, rain hitting your skin in cold slaps. When the light returns, a faint glow from the horizon, the figure is gone. Only the red thread remains, stretched taut between the trees like a web. You reach for it, and the moment your fingers touch, it snaps. A single drop of blood blooms where it breaks. You run until you see the first roof of the village again. Inside your house, the candle still burns, steady now. The thread around your wrist has vanished, but your pulse beats too fast, like something trying to escape. You close the door, latch it twice, and listen. The rain has stopped, but you can still hear it, a soft counting in the dark, steady and patient, as if something just learned your name by heart. By evening, the storm has passed, leaving the sky the color of old tin. The fields glisten wet, every puddle catching what little light remains. Inside the inn, the air smells of cider and smoke. Someone has lit a dozen candles along the tables, their flames shivering in the draughts that slip through the cracks. It's the night for the apple game, that foolish bit of fortune-telling the young ones play when the year turns cold. You tell yourself you're only watching, not believing. But belief has a way of finding its own door. They slice the apples thin, each piece glinting wetly in the firelight. The rules are simple. Throw the peel over your shoulder and see what shape it takes. If it lands like a letter, that's the first name of the one you'll marry. If it curls into nothing, you're meant for no one. The laughter comes easily at first, rising through the warm, cider-sweet air. The floorboards creak beneath boots, and someone's fiddle hums a tune that doesn't belong to any century. You sit near the hearth, the heat biting your cheeks, watching peel after peel spiral through the air. When it's your turn, the room quiets a little. You take your apple, red as blood, and strip it slowly with the small brass knife. The peel holds steady, unbroken, coiling down your wrist like a ribbon. You turn, toss it over your shoulder. It lands beside the fire, half in shadow. A few lean forward to see, but no one speaks. The shape is wrong, not a letter, not a curl, but a ring, perfect and unbroken. Someone crosses themselves, someone else laughs too loudly. The sound dies quickly. The candle nearest you flickers, bending low until the flame nearly touches the table. A drop of wax falls onto the wood, bright and liquid, and before it cools, it spreads, forming another circle, twin to the one on the floor. The cider in your cup tastes bitter now. The apple you peeled sits untouched beside it, the flesh already browning. You hear the innkeeper's wife whisper to her daughter, "That sign hasn't been seen since the fire." Her words slip into the air like smoke. The room grows restless. One by one, the candles gutter out. You stand, but the warmth of the hearth feels wrong, too hot, too near. The circle of wax on the table has turned black at the edges, still warm beneath your fingertips. Someone opens the door, and the wind rushes in, scattering the remaining light. For an instant, the fire flares higher than it should, throwing every face into sharp relief, eyes wide, mouths half open, fear caught mid-breath. Then, silence. The last candle dies. Outside, the night smells of damp leaves and iron. You walk home with the taste of apples still on your tongue, sweet and metallic. Behind you, the inn's chimney smokes thinly, though no fire burns inside. When you pass the edge of the field, you catch sight of something pale on the ground, the apple peel, curled into a perfect ring. It trembles once in the wind, then tightens, as if something invisible has just slipped it onto a waiting hand. The festival begins with smoke. Thick and blue, it spills from the bonfire pit long before anyone dares strike the first spark. The air smells of damp straw, tallow, and the faint sour sweetness of cider left too long to ferment. By dusk, the whole village gathers in the square, faces hidden behind masks cut from paper and cloth. Some are crude, crooked mouths, blackened eyes, others delicate as lace. You stand among them, mask tied tight against your skin, breathing through fabric that tastes of ash and glue. The rule is simple. No one may show their face until dawn. A fiddler starts a tune, shrill, uneven, almost desperate. Children spin in ragged circles, their laughter breaking through the music like cracks in glass. The fire catches at last, roaring up in a flash of orange and gold. Shadows leap across the square, multiplying the dancers, turning them into something feral. The night feels alive in a way daylight never does, every sound sharpened, every silence waiting. They say the masks confuse the dead, make them mistake the living for their own. You hope that's true. Someone presses a cup into your hand, mead, spiced and heavy. You drink, though it burns. The warmth crawls through you, settling low in your chest. The masks blur together, smiling, screaming, bleeding paint and sweat. For a moment, you think you see your own face among them, looking back from across the fire. You blink, and it's gone. The fiddler's tune falters, then resumes, slower now. The rhythm feels wrong, the kind of music meant for something that doesn't need to breathe. The crowd begins to thin. Some stumble home, laughing too loudly, their masks hanging loose around their necks. Others linger, drawn to the fire as it collapses into embers. You stay. Across the square, a tall figure stands perfectly still, no movement, no sound. The mask it wears is blank, smooth as porcelain, featureless except for two small holes where eyes should be. You tell yourself it's just one of the revelers, drunk and playing tricks. Yet when you glance away and back again, it's closer. The wind shifts, sparks scatter like insects through the air. The figure steps forward, slow and deliberate. The heat from the fire wavers between you. Its mask reflects the flames, and for a heartbeat, you see your own face burning there. The mead turns sour in your mouth. You step back, but the crowd presses in behind you, masked faces leaning close, laughter too soft to be human. The tall figure lifts a hand, palm up, a gesture of invitation or command. You turn and run. The laughter follows, echoing off the cobblestones high and thin. When you reach your door, you tear the mask from your face, gasping. The air inside the house feels colder than it should, empty but aware. You drop the mask on the floor. Its paper mouth is smiling now, though you swear you didn't paint it that way. Outside, the fire burns down to coals. The last note of the fiddle fades into silence. In the square, dozens of masks lie, scattered hollow faces staring up at nothing, waiting for someone to wear them again next year. The sea fog rolls in before sunset, thick and salt-sour, swallowing the edges of the village until every sound feels underwater. The church bell stays silent, though it's Sunday. The only light comes from the widow's house at the far end of the lane, the one they say was built on the bones of the old quay. You've never been inside, but you know the stories. Every year on this night, she burns a single candle in her window for the man the sea took and never gave back. It's been 17 years since he left on that storm, 17 candles, each smaller than the last. You tell yourself you're only walking for the air, that you just happened to take this road. But your steps slow when you reach her gate. The candle is there, flickering faintly through the fog, its flame bending in a wind that doesn't touch you. The window is open an inch, the lace curtain moving like breath. The air smells of salt and beeswax, and something faintly metallic, the scent of rusted anchors, of blood washed clean by tide. You lift your lantern, meaning to knock, but the door opens first. She stands there, small, grey, eyes pale as the horizon. The candlelight gilds the hollows of her face, softening nothing. She doesn't seem surprised to see you. "The sea's been whispering tonight," she says, voice thin but steady. "Best not to answer." You nod without meaning to. She turns and gestures you inside. The house feels older than the others, beams bowed with salt, floorboards worn smooth by years of pacing. Every surface gleams faintly, as though polished by unseen hands. On the mantel, a dozen candle stubs stand like little soldiers, their wicks blackened, melted into one another. Beside them, a jar half filled with seawater glows faintly in the dim light, as though it holds a piece of the moon. The widow sets a teacup in front of you. The liquid inside is clear and cold. "He's close tonight," she murmurs. The wind carries him when it comes from the west. You start to ask who, but the question dies. Somewhere beyond the walls, a long, low moan rises, not the wind, not quite, the sound of something vast, exhaling. The widow crosses to the window and touches the glass. "He always finds the light," she says softly. "That's why I keep it burning." Her reflection in the pane flickers for a heartbeat. It isn't hers at all. The face in the glass is young, sunburned, eyes bright with life. Then the candle trembles, and the image vanishes. The flame lengthens, bending toward the sea. She closes her eyes and whispers something too quiet to catch. When you leave, the fog has thickened into a wall. You look back once the candle still burns in the window, but the shadow behind it is no longer hers. It stands taller, broader, as though the sea finally kept its promise. You walk faster, the taste of salt stinging your lips. Behind you, the moaning wind rises again, and the light in the widow's window flares one last time, then goes out. It begins with the ticking, a small sound, steady and innocent at first, like the heartbeat of a sleeping animal, then louder. The old clock in your hallway has ticked since before you were born, carved oak, brass hands, its pendulum a dull gleam in the dark. But tonight it sounds wrong, too fast, too alive. You try to ignore it as you bank the fire and snuff the candles, yet the rhythm follows you up the stairs, echoing through the walls like footsteps that keep perfect time. At midnight, it changes. The chime should come 12 slow notes, one for each hour, but instead, it keeps going. 13, 14. You count them until the sound folds in on itself, becoming not ringing but breathing, a hollow exhale in metal. The air in your room turns dense, full of dust that wasn't there before. You light the candle again. Its flame quivers, small and nervous. Downstairs, the clock ticks faster, the sound bright as nails tapping on glass. You tell yourself it's only the storm outside, though there isn't one. The sky is clear, the night too still. When you step onto the landing, the noise seems to retreat, coaxing you after it. You descend slowly, your hand sliding along the rail, your shadow stretching ahead like a guide. The air smells of oil and old wood. In the hallway, the clock waits tall, silent between ticks. You can see the faint reflection of your candle on its glass face, warped by the curve of time. The pendulum moves, slow and heavy, but you realize it's not swinging side to side, it's breathing, in and out. The sound hums through the floorboards, through your ribs, syncing with your pulse. The brass hands tremble, then turn backward 1 minute, then 10. The tick becomes a voice, faint and rhythmic, counting in whispers you can't quite catch. You lean closer, and the glass fogs with your breath. For a moment you think you see something behind it. A face, not yours, pale, unfamiliar, watching. The second hand stops. The silence that follows feels bottomless. You step back. The candle flickers, then dies. In the dark, the clock begins again, but not where it left off. It's faster now, a frantic stutter of time collapsing on itself. The air fills with the sound until it becomes unbearable. You reach for the door, ready to run, but it won't open. The wood has swollen, sealed. The ticking slows again, 1 beat, too calm now, satisfied. You wake at dawn, slumped against the wall. The candle burned to nothing beside you. The clock stands still, its hands frozen at 3 minutes past midnight. You listen, waiting for the tick. Nothing. Then, faintly beneath your feet, you hear it again, slow, steady, from inside the walls. The house seems to breathe in time with it. You rise and whisper without meaning to, "Please stop." It doesn't. The fields are nearly empty now, stripped clean by wind and cold. What remains stands crooked and brittle, the stalks whispering against one another like dry tongues. The last of the harvest lies stacked in the barn, wheat, barley, and the pale bundles they call the bones. You used to think the name was a joke, a bit of farmer's humor. Then you saw one up close. The shape wasn't right, too human in its bend, too deliberate in the way the twine crossed over itself. The old ones say it's bad luck to burn them. You're meant to bury them in the fields before frost, a gift to the earth so it doesn't forget you when spring comes. You volunteer to help this year. Maybe curiosity, maybe something quieter. The air smells of hay and iron. The sun hangs low, a dull coin behind grey clouds. Inside the barn, shadows stretch long, the kind that move, even when you don't. The bundles lie stacked along the wall, tied with red thread, each crowned with a twist of straw shaped like a face. Some smile, some don't. You reach out to touch one, the straw crackles under your fingertips, leaving a faint scent of rot. Beneath it, the wood is damp. The farmer's wife watches from the doorway, her eyes narrow. "Best not to linger," she says. They don't like being stared at. You want to ask who they are, but she's already gone, her boots crunching on the frozen ground. You pull one of the bundles free and carry it outside. It's heavier than it should be. Something clinks softly inside, like coins or teeth. The weight presses against your shoulder as you walk toward the field. At the far edge, the soil is soft from last night's rain. You dig with a spade, the earth cold and slick. When the hole is deep enough, you lower the bundle in. The straw face tilts up toward you, mouth open, as if mid-sigh. You cover it quickly, tamping the dirt flat. The wind rises, carrying the faintest sound, a rustle that isn't leaves. You tell yourself it's nothing, but the hairs on your neck lift one by one. You turn back toward the barn. The door moves, though no one touches it. A shadow slips across the threshold, thin, jointed, not human in its shape. The red threads on the other bundles quiver, stretching taut like veins. You take a step back, then another. The air hums, low and steady, a sound too deep to be made by wind. Then, one by one, the straw faces turn toward you. You run. The path home is longer than you remember. When you reach the village, the light has gone from the sky. You don't look behind you, not even when you hear the faint rattle of straw dragging along the dirt road. That night, sleep won't come. Every time you close your eyes, you see the field again, dark, endless, and breathing. And somewhere under the soil, something shifts, settling in for winter. The cold arrives early this year. Frost blooms on the windows in strange, deliberate shapes, spirals, circles, the suggestion of an eye half closed. You wake before dawn to the sound of wood contracting, the small, aching pops of the house adjusting to the cold. The fire has gone out. The air tastes metallic. You light a candle, and for a moment, the whole room seems to flinch from the light. Then the sound comes soft, uncertain, 3 knocks against the door. Not loud enough to wake anyone else, but too distinct to ignore. You pull on your coat and step carefully across the floorboards. The candle flame bends toward the door, its light thin and tremulous. The knocks come again, the same rhythm, 2 slow, 1 fast. You know that rhythm, the postman uses it, but never at this hour. You call out, voice small in the cold air. No answer. You wait, count the silence, then lift the latch. The door doesn't open outward like it should. It moves toward you, pressing inward from the other side, slow and heavy, as if something enormous leans against it. The hinges groan. You step back, heart hammering. The gap widens an inch, then 2, revealing nothing but the night. The candle gutters, struggling against the sudden breath of air. You can see your reflection in the glass of the window, wide eyes, pale face, the door half open behind you. The reflection moves a heartbeat slower than you do. You push the door closed hard. It slams shut, the sound echoing through the house like a shout. The latch drops by itself. For a long moment, nothing moves. Then, faintly, the handle turns once, twice testing. It rattles gently, almost polite. You back away, holding the candle high. The flame dances across the floorboards, illuminating a thin line of frost creeping from beneath the door. It spreads across the wood in seconds, delicate as lace. When it reaches your boots, the air grows thick with the scent of iron and wet stone. You whisper without meaning to, "Who's there?" The words fall flat, swallowed by the cold. On the other side, something exhales long, steady, close. The frost trembles, the latch lifts. You throw your shoulder against the door, forcing it shut again. This time, it stays still. The breathing stops. The candle flame steadies, its light warm and human once more. You wait until the first grey hint of dawn stains the sky before stepping away. When you finally dare to open it, sunlight spills across the threshold, pale and clean. The frost has melted, leaving the wood slick. Only one mark remains, a single wet handprint on the inside of the door. Larger than yours, the air smells faintly of the sea, though the shore lies miles away. You leave the door barred that night, but every so often, just before sleep, you hear it again, the faint rattle of the latch, the hush of breath against the wood, and the quiet patience of something that still wants in. The rain hasn't stopped for 3 days. It falls in thin, silver needles, a steady whisper that seeps into everything, the walls, the blankets, your bones. The village feels drowned, its colors washed to gray. The tavern is empty tonight except for a few candles, and the widow who sits by the hearth, shuffling a deck of cards that look older than she is. Her eyes are small and sharp, the kind that miss nothing. They say she used to tell fortunes for sailors before the sea took her husband. They also say no one who's played her game walks home quite the same. You don't plan to sit with her, but she looks up as you pass, her voice a dry whisper. "Stay a hand," she says, not as invitation but as instruction. Her deck smells faintly of salt and dust. The cards' edges are frayed, their faces faded, but the symbols still gleam in the firelight. Cups, swords, coins, and something else, a fifth suit, marked only by an eye. You take a seat. The wood creaks like it's warning you. She deals 3 cards face down between you. 1 for what's gone, she murmurs. 1 for what waits. 1 for what will not stay buried. Her hands never shake. You turn the first card. A ship overturned in a black sea. The second, a door half open, a shadow behind it. The third, blank. Just pale paper, smooth and cold beneath your fingers. You look up, but she's staring past you, her lips moving soundlessly. The fire pops, sending a spray of sparks across the floor. The air smells of smoke and salt water. The candles flicker, their flames bending toward the cards. The widow finally speaks. "Someone's called your name," she says, "not the living kind." Her voice isn't unkind, but it's certain. She gathers the cards, but the blank one clings to the table, as if glued there by breath. She touches it once, and the edge darkens, a wet stain spreading slowly outward. You stand, heart thudding. The widow looks at you then, eyes clearer than the storm outside. When the rain stops, she says, "Don't look at your reflection for a day and a night. It won't be yours." Her hand hovers over the deck. The top card flips itself. The same blank face stares up, glistening now, the ink still bleeding. You leave without finishing your drink. The rain follows you down the street, heavier now, drumming on the roofs like hands on a coffin. By the time you reach your door, your clothes cling to your skin, cold as paper. You glance toward the window and freeze. Someone stands just beyond the glass, their face pale and smooth as an unmarked card. The rain slides down their cheeks like tears. Then, in a blink, they're gone. Inside, the fire still burns. On your table lies a single playing card, damp and blank. You touch it, and for a moment it feels like skin. The rain clears at last, leaving the air sharp and clean, as if something has been washed away. The fields steam in the early light, and smoke rises from the chimneys, cautious, thin, uncertain. You walk toward the edge of the village, where the old schoolhouse stands half-collapsed beside the woods. The windows are broken, the roof sagging like a tired spine. No one has used it in years, not since the fire. The children who once sat there are grown now, though a few never left at all at least. That's what people whisper when the wind turns east. The ground behind the school is soft with ash. The grass never grew back right, only a brittle grey moss that crackles underfoot. You almost don't see the circle at first, faint lines pressed into the dirt, black against the pale soil. Someone has drawn it recently, the edges are too clean. Inside it, small stones form a ring, each marked with a single letter scratched deep into the surface. You crouch to look closer. Together they spell, "Stay." Your breath fogs the air. You look around, but the woods are empty. The silence here feels too precise, not natural, not accidental. You brush one of the stones with your glove. It's warm. You pull your hand back fast, heart quickening. There's no fire here, no sun yet strong enough to heat the ground. Then, faintly, you hear it laughter. Not close, not quite far. The sound of children at play, thin and hollow as a memory. You straighten and call out, though you don't know why. The laughter stops. The woods beyond the clearing look unchanged, but something in them is watching. The air thickens, the way it does before a storm. You step backward, and the ash beneath your boots stirs, lifting in small grey spirals that spin and collapse again. You realize too late that your footprints have made a second ring around the first, 2 circles, one living, one not. A whisper curls through the air, too soft to catch, too clear to ignore. It comes from within the ring. You step closer. The stones hum, a low vibration you can feel in your teeth. The smell of smoke rises, not the clean kind, but the old, greasy scent of something that shouldn't have burned. Then you see them, faint outlines pressed into the ash, small handprints, dozens of them turning black at the edges. You stumble backward, out of both circles, the sound in your ears rising to a child's shriek, joy or terror. It's impossible to tell. The air flashes white, then stills. When you open your eyes, the clearing is empty again. The stones lie scattered, letters worn smooth, the ground looks untouched. Only your footprints remain. You leave fast, not daring to glance back. As you reach the road, a single fleck of ash lands on your sleeve, warm as breath. You brush it off, but it leaves a faint smudge in the shape of a child's hand. It doesn't fade. The last night of October comes quietly, without wind, without moon. The air hangs thick, heavy with wood smoke and the faint sweetness of cider left to sour. The whole village feels poised, as if holding its breath. From every cottage window a dim light glows, not bright enough to welcome, only to remind. You pass the baker's, the miller's, the old widow's house by the lane. Each window shows the same strange sight, a table set for one more than lives there. Plates gleam in the candlelight, cups full to the brim, chairs empty but waiting. It's the hollow feast, the meal for the ones who come back. Your grandmother used to tell you that this was the oldest ritual of all. Feed them once a year, she'd whisper, and they'll leave you be the rest of it. The dead, she said, don't hunger for food, only for memory. You thought it was a story meant to scare children into silence. But tonight, as you walk the darkening road, the smell of roasted meat and fresh bread follows you, thick and clinging. No one eats. No one speaks. When you reach your own house, the table is already set. Someone's been here. The bread is still warm, the butter soft. A cup of cider gleams gold beside a second plate, your plate. The chair across from it is pulled out, angled slightly toward the fire. You don't sit. The air feels wrong, weighted. The candle flame doesn't rise straight. It bends toward the empty seat, as though drawn to a breath you can't hear. You think about clearing the table, but your hand stops halfway. The smell in the room changes the sweetness, fading to something older, earthier, the faint trace of rain-soaked wool. You know that scent. You turn slowly toward the chair. It isn't empty anymore. The outline is faint, like smoke caught in a beam of light, but it's there, a figure, slumped slightly forward, as if exhausted. Its hand rests beside the plate, fingers curled like roots. You don't run. You can't. The figure lifts its head. No eyes, no mouth, only a hollow where a face should be. Still, you feel it watching you, pulling you closer with the quiet gravity of recognition. The candle flickers, stretching its shadow across the table. The cider ripples once, then stills. You whisper a name not yours, but the one you buried years ago, and the shape tilts its head, as though listening. Then the fire sputters out. The darkness rushes in, fast and absolute. Something shifts in the chair, the faint scrape of bone against wood. The air around you thickens, warm, close, almost kind. A voice, soft and wrong, murmurs from the dark. You remembered. The candle flares back to life. The chair is empty again. The second plate is clean. The cider glass stands half drained. You sit down because your legs won't hold you anymore. Outside, one by one, the lights in the village go out, each flame dying in turn like a string of breaths exhaled into the night. The morning after the hollow feast feels unreal, as if the world has been left slightly ajar. The sky is pale, washed thin, and the village moves slower than usual. No bells, no chatter, only the soft shuffle of boots across wet leaves. You pass the churchyard on your way to the rectory and see her through the open door, the parish scribe, sitting alone among stacks of papers. Her ink bottles gleam like obsidian in the grey light. They say she writes down every name spoken by the living and by the dead. You've never believed it, but she looks up when you enter as if she's been expecting you. The room smells of wax and old parchment, sharp and sweet at once. Her quill moves steadily, scratching along the page. You notice the names, hundreds of them, written in precise black lines. The ink doesn't glisten. It seems to sink into the parchment, like water into sand. The record must be complete, she murmurs. Her voice is calm, almost kind. You ask what kind of record it is. She smiles, a small, patient thing. The list of those who remember and those who've been remembered. You don't understand until she gestures to a narrow ledger set apart from the others. Its pages are darker, the paper rougher. This one writes itself. she says softly. The quill beside it lies still, yet faint marks appear on the page curves, loops, letters forming without a hand to guide them. You take a step closer. The ink smells faintly of iron and salt, and the marks begin to spell something, a name, yours. You stumble back, nearly knocking over a candlestick. The scribe doesn't move. It happens when the veil thins, she says. When someone speaks your name in the dark, the words sink into you like cold water. She closes the ledger gently, the ink still glistening on the last letter. Don't speak it aloud again tonight, she warns, not even to yourself. Once written, a name listens back. The air in the room thickens, heavy with the scent of ink and smoke. You notice the shadows along the wall, too deep, too solid. They lean toward the table, pooling around the ledger's edges like spilled oil. One of them flickers, stretching until it almost touches your boot. You step away, and it follows, faint and sure. The scribe dips her quill, unfazed. They gather when someone's name changes sides, she says quietly. You leave without another word. Outside, the cold feels cleaner, sharper. You half expect to hear your name whispered by the wind, but it's worse than that silence, absolute and listening. When you reach your door, you pause. The frost on the wood glints faintly, traced in delicate lines that curve into letters. You brush them away before they finish forming. That night, when you blow out the candle, you hear the sound again, a quill scratching in the dark, slow and careful, spelling something you can't bear to hear. The frost thickens again that night, painting the windows with halls that look too much like fingerprints. You wake before dawn, your breath curling in small ghosts above you. The fire has died, but the air still hums faintly, like something breathing beneath the floorboards. You light a match and hold it to the wick. The flame sputters, then steadies. In the weak glow, the window seems alive. The frost pulses, spreading slowly outward from a single point, as if drawn by an invisible hand. You rise, crossing the room in silence. The boards creak under your feet once, twice, then stop, though you haven't. The air near the glass feels colder than the rest of the room, sharp enough to sting your skin. You lean closer. The frost forms words. Not carved, not etched, formed, each letter blooming from the inside of the pane, as though something on the other side exhales to write. The phrase is short, uneven, smudged at the edges. I see you. Your throat tightens. The candle trembles in your hand, dripping wax like tears. You whisper to yourself that it's just condensation, the cold, a trick of your tired eyes. But then another breath fogs the glass from the outside, faint and human. Slowly, a new line appears beneath the first. Do you see me? The wind has stopped. There's no sound but the soft hiss of the candle. You press your palm against the glass. It burns cold. On the other side, something mirrors you, not a reflection, not exactly. It's your hand, but thinner, longer, the fingers stretched wrong. They meet yours perfectly, divided by only that fragile sheet of glass. The frost melts beneath your touch, revealing the darkness beyond. For a moment, you think you see a face, eyes pale as milk, a mouth that doesn't move when it speaks. A sound rises from deep in the chimney, a soft, wheezing gasp, then silence. The air smells of wet stone and something faintly sweet, like old fruit gone soft. You pull your hand back, but your skin sticks for an instant before tearing free. A thin layer of frost clings to your palm, glittering in the candlelight. You back away, the flame bending toward the window as if drawn to what's outside. Then it comes again, another breath, long and slow. The glass fogs completely now, a white film that spreads to the edges of the frame. Letters begin to form faster, overlapping, unreadable. A whisper joins them, not loud, but close. Right behind the glass, the sound of someone trying to remember how to speak. You stumble to the door and wrench it open. The cold outside rushes in, raw and empty. The frost on the glass vanishes in an instant. You step into the yard, heart pounding. The window glows faintly behind you, though there's no candle left inside. The frost reforms from the center, a single phrase glimmering before fading away. You do now. When you return inside, the mirror above the mantel is fogged too. But this time, you know better than to look. The thaw comes suddenly, as if winter itself has grown tired of watching. The fields turn slick and soft, their edges blurred by melting frost. The air smells of wet hay and the faint sweetness of rot, the scent that lingers when the ground exhales after too long buried. You take the path toward the old meadow beyond the mill, the one no one crosses after sundown. The villagers call it the Piper's Field, though no one remembers why. They say the earth there sings when the moon is low. You've always dismissed it as wind and imagination. Until tonight. The first note reaches you halfway down the lane, faint, mournful, curling through the dusk. It isn't a tune, you know, but it feels familiar, like something you once heard in a dream. The sound comes and goes with the wind, growing stronger as you approach. The grass there stands taller than the rest, even in winter, pale and brittle as bone. The earth beneath is uneven, full of shallow dips and humps, as though something beneath it shifted once and never quite settled again. The melody threads through the air, high and thin, almost human. You stop at the field's edge, scanning the dark. There's no figure, no movement, only the sound. It winds around you, teasing, pulling you forward. You step closer. The air thickens, damp and warm, smelling suddenly of river water and smoke. The song changes, then faster, sharper. For an instant you see movement, a shadow gliding low across the ground, bending the grass as it passes. You kneel, pressing your hand to the soil. It vibrates faintly, as if something beneath the surface is plucking invisible strings. When you pull your hand back, the tips of your fingers are dusted with ash, fine and grey. The next note pierces through the air, louder now, right beside you. You turn, and for a heartbeat, you see him, a figure at the edge of the field, his back to you, a long coat rippling though the wind is still. His hands rise to his lips. The faint glint of a pipe catches the moonlight. Then, without sound, he's gone. The music doesn't stop. It grows not louder, but nearer. You can hear it from under your boots now. A chorus of thin, piping breaths. The ground shifts. The dips and humps align themselves into shapes. Ribs, spines, fingers reaching just beneath the soil. The grass sways as if stirred by unseen breath. You step back, and the music follows, the pitch climbing into a shriek that isn't quite human. You run. The song trails you all the way to the village, its rhythm breaking into laughter, not cruel, not kind, just endless. When you reach your door, you slam it behind you, pressing your back to the wood. The silence after is worse than the sound. Outside, the fields are still again, but the wind carries a single low note, the last of the tune. It fades slowly, curling into the night, until it sounds like someone whistling from far below the ground. They call it a simple test, an old trick to tell whether a house remembers the dead who once lived in it. You've heard it whispered for years. Light a single candle after midnight and walk through every room. If the flame burns steady, the room is clean. If it falters, something else is there. The story never says what to do when the light goes out. Tonight, you decide not to ask. The clock strikes 12, slow and uneven, each chime quivering through the walls. You strike a match, the sulphur stinging your nose, and raise the candle. The first room is easy, the kitchen, full of the ordinary ghosts of bread and smoke. The flame burns smooth and gold. You move to the parlor, where the air smells faintly of iron. The light trembles once, then steadies, throwing your shadow across the portraits on the wall. The faces look different in the flicker eyes following, mouths softening into half smiles that don't belong to the people they were painted for. The next room is the hallway, narrow and long, its ceiling low enough that the smoke from the candle gathers above you. The boards creak softly, though you step lightly. The flame bends toward the far end of the corridor, toward the nursery door. You stop. The handle is turned slightly, not the way you left it. A thin draught curls through the crack beneath it, smelling faintly of lavender and dust. The flame gutters once, twice. You tell yourself to skip it, to go back, but your hand moves on its own. The door opens with a sigh, the sound of old hinges remembering. Inside, the air is still, heavy with the faint sweetness of things long put away. The candlelight spills across a small chair, a mirror, a toy horse tipped on its side. The flame wavers again, stretching sideways as though reaching. You step forward, breath caught. Then, the light goes out. Not a flicker, not a fade, it's snuffed, as if pinched between unseen fingers. The dark folds around you instantly, thick and living. You hear it before you feel it, the faint sound of movement, cloth dragging across wood, the whisper of bare feet on the floor. You strike another match, but it dies before it catches. The air has turned cold and damp, like breath against your ear. Something brushes past you, a rustle, soft and quick. You turn toward it, heart slamming in your chest. Then, a sound, a quiet, deliberate exhale, close enough to fog your cheek. You stumble backward through the doorway, slamming it behind you. The hall feels too bright, though the candle's flame has returned on its own, steady and tall, as if nothing ever happened. You don't finish the test. You blow the candle out yourself. The smell of smoke lingers, clinging to your sleeves like fingers that don't want to let go. Upstairs, a faint light glows beneath the nursery door, flickering once before vanishing, a candle still burning in a room you know is empty. The first frost, after All Hallows' Eve, always brings the market day, when traders from the next valley spread their wares along the churchyard wall. You wander among them, the air cold enough to bite your breath into small white clouds. There are baskets of apples, jars of honey thick as amber, bolts of fabric dyed in bruised purples and deep greens. It feels almost ordinary again until you find the stall with no seller. It's a narrow table tucked between the candlemaker's cart and the woman selling charms. Only one thing lies upon it, a folded length of black lace. The pattern is intricate, almost too fine to be handmade, each thread looping into another like spider silk. It catches the light, strangely, not dull, but alive, shifting between shadow and shine. You hesitate, certain it's a trick of the eyes, but the lace breathes as though wind moves beneath it. When you touch it, it's cold, then suddenly warm, as if returning the memory of someone else's hand. You mean to drop it, but your fingers don't obey. A smell rises, faint rosewater mixed with the salt of old tears. You turn to call for the seller, but the space beside you is empty now. The market sounds fade into a dull murmur, muffled, distant. For a moment, everything stills. You hear only your own pulse and the soft hiss of fabric against your skin. The lace flutters once and settles across your wrist, clinging gently as if it's chosen you. That night, you find it again, though you don't remember bringing it home. It lies across your chair, folded neatly. You tell yourself it's harmless, perhaps left behind by accident. You unfold it longer than you recall, fine as smoke, and drape it over your mirror for safekeeping. The reflection warps instantly. Where your face should be, there's another, blurred and half-formed, smiling faintly from behind the veil. You step back, the room colder now. The candle beside you flickers, its flame bending toward the mirror. You can't tell whether the smile grows wider or if the lace itself shifts. The fabric moves again, slow, deliberate, as though something beneath it exhales. A soft whisper threads through the air. Thank you. The sound freezes your blood. You tear the veil down and drop it to the floor. The whisper stops, replaced by silence so deep it feels heavy. You wait, breath shallow, staring at the mirror. Your reflection returns, but only you, pale and shaking. The lace lies still at your feet, black as midnight, edges damp with something that gleams like dew. In the morning, the veil is gone. You search every corner, every drawer, even the hearth. The only trace is a faint scent of roses lingering in the air. Later, as you pass the churchyard, you see a new name carved into the stone nearest the wall. The letters are still dark, freshly cut. Someone has left a folded strip of black lace upon it, fluttering softly in the wind. as if it knows who will wear it next. The thaw doesn't last. By the third night, the frost returns fine as salt, brittle as glass. The air smells faintly of soot. You wake to a soft thud against the door. Not a knock, something heavier, duller, final. When you open it, the world is pale with moonlight. At your feet lies a small black stone, smooth as river glass, no larger than a coin. You turn it over. Its surface is warm, though the cold bites at your skin. By morning, every doorstep in the village holds one. No one admits to finding it first, and no one claims to have seen who left them. The priest calls it mischief, the children call it a blessing, but the old ones don't speak at all. You keep yours on the mantel beside the hearth, telling yourself it's nothing, a stone, a curiosity, a story already old before the telling. That night, the air in the house feels heavy, thick, with a metallic taste. You dream of wings beating slow against a grey sky, feathers falling like snow. When you wake, the room is darker than it should be. The fire's gone out. Only the stone glimmers faintly, pulsing with a light too dim to see but impossible to ignore. The shadows around it move as though breathing. You reach for it. The instant your fingers brush the surface, sound floods the room, not loud, but vast. The rush of wind, the scrape of claws against stone, the low rasp of something shifting above you. You look up. The ceiling seems lower, the beams darker. A single black feather drifts down, curling as it falls. The sound stops. The stone is cool again. You step outside to clear your head. The village lies silent under a white sky, but there's movement on every roof, the faint shuffle of weight, the gleam of eyes. Crows, dozens of them, maybe more, perched in rows along the eaves. They don't move when you appear. They watch. Each one holds a small stone in its beak. For a moment, the night hums low, electric, and then, all at once, they drop them. The sound is like rain on metal, thousands of tiny impacts. The birds take flight, a black storm rising and scattering into the dark. You run back inside. The stone on your mantel is gone, but the mark it left remains, a circle of soot burned into the wood. In the center, faint but clear, are 3 scratches, sharp as claws. By dawn, the streets are clear again. The crows have vanished, the stones with them. Yet every window bears the same mark, 3 dark lines scored deep into the frost. No one speaks of it at the market, though everyone's eyes flick upward, searching the grey sky for wings. That night, just before sleep, you hear the soft tap of something striking the roof. Once, twice, then nothing. When you open the door in the morning, another black stone waits on your step, this one carved with a single word: listen. It begins with the smell of bread, warm, rich, almost sweet. The scent drifts through the village streets long before sunset, winding between doors and chimneys, finding every open window. It's the night of the silent supper, the oldest ritual left. No one remembers where it began, only that it must never be skipped. Each household sets a table, one place for each of the living, and one for whoever still lingers. The rules are simple: eat in silence, don't raise your eyes, and when you hear the chair beside you move, keep your head bowed. Your table is ready before the light fades. The room feels smaller than usual, the air tight, heavy with the smell of stew and wood smoke. You light a single candle and place it between the plates. The flame burns low, steady. Outside, a hush settles over the village doors closing, voices dropping, the sound of spoons meeting bowls in quiet rhythm. The first mouthful tastes of salt, the second of ash. You eat slowly, the silence pressing close. Halfway through, the air shifts, not a breeze, not a draft, just a subtle rearranging of space. The candle bends, its flame leaning toward the empty chair opposite you. You don't look, the rules forbid it. But you feel it, the faint tremor in the floorboards, the scrape of wood against wood as the chair draws back. A sigh, low and familiar, ripples through the room. The smell changes, then the scent of earth after rain, the faint sweetness of decay. You set your spoon down. The chair creaks again, a sound like knees bending. You whisper a name without meaning to. The flame wavers, elongating until it touches the rim of your cup, then steadies once more. Across from you, the sound of movement, soft, deliberate. A hand brushing cloth. The faint clink of metal against porcelain. You keep your eyes on the table. The rules are older than comfort. One look, they say, and you invite the rest of them in. You count your breaths 7, then 10, until the silence shifts again. The weight lifts, the air warms, and the candle's flame straightens. You raise your head. The chair is empty, but the cup beside it is no longer full. A dark line of liquid trickles down the side, thick as ink. Outside, the bells begin to ring slow, uneven, hesitant, as though the tower itself has forgotten the tune. The village exhales at once, spoons clinking, chairs scraping, life returning to the rooms. You clear the plates quickly, but when you reach for the empty cup, the handle is warm. You tip it to the light and find something at the bottom, a single sliver of bone, pale and smooth as porcelain. That night, as you douse the candle, you think you hear footsteps in the hall, bare, soft, familiar. They stop outside your door. A pause, then a whisper, almost gentle, "Thank you." The floorboards creak as the steps move away. You lie awake until dawn, waiting for them to return. They don't. But the scent of bread never leaves the room. The well stands apart from the rest of the village, half hidden behind a tangle of brambles where the fields slope down toward the marsh. You've passed it countless times, always at a distance, always quick to look away. The stones are black with lichen, the rope frayed, the old wooden frame leaning as if tired of holding its own weight. No one drinks from it anymore. They say the water soured after the famine turned to iron or memory. On the third night after the silent supper, you wake to a sound like dripping, slow, deliberate, steady as a clock. It comes from outside. The rain hasn't fallen in days. You rise, wrap a shawl around your shoulders, and open the door. The night air hits you, sharp and wet. The sound grows louder, not like rain, but like something being poured thick, rhythmic, measured. It's coming from the well. The path is slick underfoot, the grass heavy with frost. As you approach, the smell of the place hits you, damp stone, rust, and something faintly sweet beneath it, like wilted flowers left too long on a grave. You hold your lantern over the rim. The flame stutters, its reflection wobbling across the dark water below. It looks bottomless. You hear the dripping again, but the water's surface is still. Then, softly, something answers a second drop, higher, closer, echoing your own heartbeat. You lean in. The water moves, not rippling but breathing. It swells once, like a sigh, then stills again. Beneath the surface, something glimmers. A coin, maybe, or an eye. You tell yourself to leave, but curiosity roots your feet. You lower the bucket, the rope whispering as it uncoils. It hits the surface with a hollow splash. You pull it back up, hand over hand. The water inside glows faintly, cloudy and pale, and floating there, half submerged, is a small grey shape. You tip the bucket toward the lantern's light. It isn't a coin, it's a fingertip, small, delicate, with a ring still clinging to it. You drop the bucket. The water spills across the stones, steaming in the cold. The air shivers with a sound you can't name, not a scream, not a sigh, something vast and wet and old. You stumble backward, your lantern swinging wildly. The rope jerks once, hard, as if something below has caught hold. Then it goes slack. The sound stops. The well stands quiet again, dark and still. You turn to run, but the ground squelches beneath your boots. The frost has melted in a perfect circle around the stones. You look down, the puddle reflects the sky, but it isn't the same sky above you. The stars move slower there, as if under deep water. You flee before the image can finish changing. When you reach your door, your shawl smells of iron and rot. You bolt it shut, but even inside, you hear it, the soft creak of rope winding itself, the slow pull of something heavy climbing up from the dark. The morning after, the well feels wrong in ways you can't name. The air is thin, brittle, as though sound itself might crack if you speak too loudly. You spend the day mending things to quiet your hands, a torn sleeve, a frayed hem, the split seam of an old coat. The needle glints dully in the grey light, the thread fine as hair. Every household keeps a charm sewn into their clothing, small and secret, a scrap of iron, a coin, a dried flower. Yours was your grandmother's doing, a red thread looped into a knot just above your heart. You never thought to look at it closely before. When you press your fingers there, the spot feels tender, hot beneath the fabric. You pull the needle free and unpick a few stitches. The thread resists, catching on itself, almost pulsing between your fingertips. The knot finally comes loose, and the fabric parts. What you find beneath isn't the charm. It's a small, dark stain spreading through the lining, not damp, but fresh. You touch it, and your finger comes away red. You freeze. There's no wound, no pain, just that slow, steady warmth. The air smells faintly of iron. The candle on your table flickers, its flame bending toward you as if drawn by the scent. You tell yourself you must have pricked your finger earlier, that it's nothing more than that. But then the thread moves slowly, deliberately curling back toward the hole, like a living thing returning home. You drop the needle. It lands upright, point first in the wood. The room hums faintly, a sound between a heartbeat and a whisper. You back away, but your sleeve catches on the chair, tearing again. The fabric splits open cleanly down the seam, and there, nestled between the layers, you see it. A tiny charm stitched directly into the cloth, not iron, not flour, but bone. The size of a tooth, carved with fine marks that shimmer when the candlelight hits them. You reach for it, but before you can touch it, the charm cracks. A line runs straight through the middle, and a drop of something dark seeps out, thick as ink. It spreads fast, tracing along the seams of your coat, your sleeves, until the whole garment feels heavier, clinging to you like wet skin. The air grows cold. You hear a soft click, the sound of the needle rolling off the table, and then a whisper, "Finish it." Your hands move without asking permission. The needle rises, gleaming now, the red thread already looped through its eye. You stitch the seam closed again, faster than you thought possible, each pull of the thread tightening the air in the room. The moment the last knot is tied, the warmth stops. The candle burns straight and steady once more. When you look down, there's no stain, no blood, only a faint scar of red thread crossing your chest. You touch it gently. The pulse beneath it is slow but strong, not yours. That night, you sleep without dreams, though in the dark you feel something small and rhythmic moving beneath the stitches, as if the charm is breathing again. It begins with music faint, distant, and wrong. Not a tune exactly, but a rhythm, like footsteps falling in perfect time with your heartbeat. You're walking home through the fog when you first hear it, a low hum that travels through the ground rather than the air. The streets are empty, the lamps have gone out early. You think it's the echo of your own steps until the sound continues after you stop. Then another joins it, and another. The fog thickens, swallowing the edges of the world. Shapes begin to form within it, not solid, not mist, something between. The air smells faintly of ash and candle wax. You turn a corner and freeze. The street ahead is filled with light, dozens of lanterns moving in a long, slow line. Each one glows with a strange, steady pulse, golden at first, then pale, then blue, as though they're breathing. Beneath them, shadows move, though no feet touch the ground. You should turn back, but the music grows clearer now, a deep, mournful drone, like a hymn played backward. It draws you closer. The procession moves silently, the lanterns swinging in rhythm. You see them more clearly now, the figures holding them. Tall, thin, faces hidden beneath hoods that never shift or breathe. The lanterns hang from bone-white hands, their flames steady despite the fog. You realize with a chill that the light doesn't come from fire at all. It flickers from within the glass itself, alive and watching. You step into a doorway and hold your breath as they pass. The air around them bends, the fog pulling toward their path as though the world itself is being drawn along. A scent follows iron, salt, and something sweet, almost like decay softened by time. One of the lanterns slows beside you. Its glow brightens, casting your reflection across the glass. You see yourself there, pale, trembling, and behind your reflection, another face. Its mouth moves. You don't hear the words, but you feel them vibrate inside your ribs. The procession moves on, turning down the old road toward the churchyard. You should stay hidden, but something in you follows. The ground softens under your boots, damp with unseen moisture. The church looms through the fog, its bell silent, its door open. The lanterns drift inside one by one, their bearers vanishing with them. You edge closer until the last light crosses the threshold. For a moment, the glow fills the windows, painting the stone walls in pale gold. Then, all at once, the light goes out. The silence that follows is absolute. You wait, heart hammering, but nothing stirs. You back away slowly, eyes fixed on the darkened doorway. Then you see it, a faint glow moving toward you again, small and steady, floating just above the ground. One lantern, returning, but there's no figure behind it now. It drifts past you, brushing your sleeve with a warmth that feels like breath. You glance down, your hands are glowing faintly, as though they've caught a trace of that light. When you look up again, the street is empty. Only the music remains, distant and fading, until it sounds like footsteps again, walking away or walking home. No one remembers when the bell was last rung. It hangs in the hollow of the old tower beyond the marsh, half collapsed and strangled by vines. They call it the widow's bell, a name older than any record, older than the church that once stood beside it. The stories say it tolls by itself when death comes to the valley, that it rings once for the living and twice for those who never left. You don't mean to go there, but after the procession, sleep will not come. The air in your house feels thick, pressing against your chest like a weight. You hear faint sounds between the walls, not mice, not wind, something slower, rhythmic, patient. When the first light of dawn seeps through the shutters, you rise and follow the sound out toward the marsh. The fog clings low, tasting of salt and metal. The reeds rustle without wind. You know the way by memory, the crooked fence, the stones half buried in mud. The tower appears through the mist, a broken rib of the past. The bell still hangs high above, black with age, its surface glinting faintly where the metal shows through. Beneath it, the ground is dry, though it hasn't stopped raining for days. You stop at the threshold. The air smells of iron and flowers that shouldn't bloom this late in the year. Then a sound, soft, uncertain, a single note that quivers through the fog, not loud enough to be a toll, more like a breath through a hollow throat. You look up. The bell sways gently, though the air is still. The rope dangles motionless beside it. Another sound follows, lower now, a groan of metal remembering. You take one step closer. The ground beneath you hums. The bell moves again, its mouth yawning wide. This time, the sound comes fully, a deep, resonant tone that shakes the air. It fills your chest, vibrating against your ribs until your teeth ache. You cover your ears, but the noise isn't sound anymore. It's inside you, humming behind your eyes. The air brightens for a moment, white and wet, and you see shapes within it, not shadows, not people, but impressions of movement, as if time itself is echoing. Then, the light fades. The bell stills. The silence that follows is heavy, thick with echo. You lower your hands. Something gleams in the grass near your feet, a small piece of metal, no larger than a coin. You pick it up. It's part of the bell, flaked away, but warm as if freshly forged. When you close your hand around it, a faint vibration runs up your arm, gentle as a heartbeat. You look up again. The bell is still now, utterly still. But beneath its blackened surface, faint veins of light trace along the cracks, pulsing once, then twice. You step back, slipping on the wet ground. The piece in your hand goes cold. By the time you reach the village, the church bell begins to ring, not the church's tone, but the widow's. Once, then twice. The sound rolls through the mist like a wave, slow and mournful. Windows open. Faces appear, and every person who hears it stops what they're doing, turns east, and listens. The bell's echo lingers for days. It seems to hum through the bones of the village, a sound no one speaks of but everyone hears. The animals are restless. The air carries a faint metallic tang. You wake one morning with a ringing still trapped behind your ears. Across the lane, the doctor's shutters are closed, unusual for him. He's the one who keeps the town alive through winters, but no one has seen him since the bell tolled. By afternoon, a low mist rolls in, thick as wool. You find yourself walking toward his house without quite knowing why. The steps creak under your weight. The smell hits you first, a blend of herbs, candle wax, and something coppery underneath. The door gives easily when you knock. The light inside is strange, greenish, watery, filtered through old glass bottles lining every shelf. Dozens of them, arranged in careful rows, each stoppered and labeled in neat handwriting. Some names you recognize, some are written in no language you know. A ledger lies open on the desk. The ink glistens as if fresh. The entries are precise. Names, dates, a brief note beside each expired, recovered, retained. Your own surname appears halfway down the page, the word beside it half finished. You stare at it until the letters blur. A faint sound rises behind you, a rhythmic drip, soft but constant. You turn. Against the far wall, glass jars sit in a wooden rack. Each holds a dark liquid that gleams red where the candlelight hits it. Something floats in the one nearest you, not an organ, not quite. It's too small. A fragment of bone, perhaps, or a seed. You step closer. The candle flickers, and the shape shifts, a heart, no bigger than your thumb, pulsing once, then still. The next jar beats in time with it, and the next. You back away, but the room hums now, a low vibration that grows with every heartbeat. The doctor's voice drifts from the stairwell, calm and unhurried. "Careful," he says, as if you've dropped something delicate. His face emerges from the shadows, pale, drawn, but his eyes gleam with an unnatural clarity. They only sleep when you're quiet. You try to speak, to ask what this is, but he's already turning toward the shelves. He lifts one jar gently, tilting it to the light. "Memories," he murmurs. "Everyone brings them to me eventually. It's the only way to stay." His hands shake slightly. The liquid sloshes, and the faint thrum falters, like a skipped beat. The air grows heavy. One by one, the jars begin to glow from within, faint, red, alive. The sound becomes unbearable, like 1,000 heartbeats pressed too close together. The doctor looks at you, almost tender. "Yours isn't ready yet," he says. "But soon." You run. The door slams behind you of its own accord. Outside, the mist clings to your clothes, damp and cold. When you reach home, your pulse feels wrong, slower, echoing with another rhythm. You tear open your collar and listen. The sound isn't in your chest at all. It's behind you, still beating, faint but steady, as if something you left behind refuses to stop. The smoke reaches the village at dawn, thin, grey, and smelling of salt instead of ash. At first, no one notices. The air has carried stranger things this winter. But by mid-morning, the haze thickens, and when the wind shifts, it carries the sound of crackling, faint, rhythmic, like paper burning in the next room. You follow it to the river bend where the old mill stands. What's left of it, anyway? The mill hasn't turned in a decade. Its wheel hangs crooked over the water, slick with moss, the timbers blackened from the lightning strike years ago. But today, it burns again. Flames crawl up the inside walls, thin and unnatural, feeding on wet wood and stone. The fire gives off no heat. You step closer and feel only cold, a biting kind that numbs your fingertips. The smoke rises in spirals, each twist forming strange shapes that dissolve before your eyes. A hand, a face, the outline of something larger. The villagers gather behind you, their voices low. No one moves to fetch water. Someone whispers that the miller's wife still walks the stairs at night, her lamp swinging, her hair singed white from the fire that took her. You've heard that story since childhood, though you never believed it. Then the door slams open with a sound like thunder, and she steps out. Her figure is framed by the flames, the light turning her shape transparent, her edges flickering. She carries something in her hands, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Her face is calm, expressionless, as if she's still working. She crosses the yard, each footstep leaving behind a black print that steams in the frost. The villagers scatter, but you stay rooted, watching her move toward the river. She stops at the edge and kneels, lowering the bundle into the water. The cloth darkens, sinking slowly. When it disappears beneath the surface, the flames inside the mill flare bright white, then vanish all at once. The silence that follows is suffocating. The woman straightens, turns toward you, and for the first time you see her face clearly. It's not burned. It's pale, perfect, but the eyes are hollow, filled with smoke that swirls and shifts like ink in water. She opens her mouth as if to speak, but no sound comes. Instead, smoke pours from her lips, drifting toward you in thin ribbons. It smells faintly of oil and salt, the same scent that clings to your clothes when you finally stumble home. By evening, the air in the village tastes of soot. The sky glows faintly red, though no flames remain. When you wash your hands, the water turns grey, the surface rippling with tiny bubbles that hiss as they pop. Later, when you pass the river again, the mill stands dark and whole, its walls untouched, its wheel still. Only the reflection in the water betrays it, a tower of fire burning quietly beneath the surface, the miller's wife still tending to her work below. The fog has settled thick again, heavy as wool, swallowing the edges of every house. The river runs slower than usual, swollen from the thaw. You wake to the sound of knocking, 3 sharp raps that seem to come from far away and too close at once. You wait, holding your breath, counting. It comes again. 3 beats, deliberate. Not at the door, not at the window. From the gate. You rise, pulling on your coat. The air outside is damp and cold enough to bite your lungs. The gate stands at the edge of your small garden, iron rusted but strong. It sways slightly in the wind, though you can't hear any wind. You walk toward it, boots sinking in the wet earth, and stop a few paces away. The latch lifts once, drops, lifts again, as if someone unseen is testing it. You call out, your voice sounds too loud in the mist. The gate stills. The fog curls thick around the iron, muting the world. You can just make out the shape of the road beyond. A figure might be standing there, or it might only be shadow. Then the knock comes again, not from the gate this time, but from the ground itself, a hollow, echoing sound like wood on wood or knuckles on a coffin lid. The air turns colder, dense enough to taste. You step closer, one hand on the latch. The metal is warm. You pull your hand back quickly, staring at the faint red print left on your palm. Something brushes the other side of the gate, slow and deliberate, the scrape of nails across metal. You step back, but your boots won't move. The sound changes, shifting from knocking to tapping, faster now, urgent, like a code you don't understand. You whisper for it to stop, but the air steals the words. Then, suddenly, silence. The fog parts slightly, and you see it, a small shape hanging from the gate's latch. You lean in. It's a string of bells, tiny, tarnished, threaded on a strip of leather. They don't move, yet you can hear them ringing faintly, a sound that comes from somewhere far beneath the earth. You reach for them without meaning to. The instant your fingers touch the leather, the bells fall silent. The fog closes in again, thick and blind. You retreat to the house, the air inside stale and heavy. You bolt the door, set the latch, but the sound follows one soft knock against the wood, low, polite. Then another, and another. You press your hand to the door. It's warm again. The knocking stops, and you think it's over until you turn around. The bells now hang from your own doorframe, swaying slightly, though no wind moves. When you touch them, they ring once, a note clear as glass, sharp enough to make your eyes water. You step back. The sound fades. But that night, every time you blink, you see the faint glow of iron beyond your closed lids, and you know the gate is no longer where you left it. It's waiting closer. The first snow comes too early, arriving without warning or wind. It falls soundlessly through a sky the color of pewter, each flake heavy, grey, and slow, as though the air itself is weary of holding them. You stand at the window, watching it settle, not white but ashen, soft as sifted dust. It doesn't melt when it touches the ground. Instead, it lies there, dull and still, as if the earth has been draped in silk spun from smoke. The children should be out shouting and laughing, leaving trails of footprints through the lanes, but no one goes outside. The church bell has stopped ringing altogether. Every door stays closed. The snow deepens without piling, pressing downward instead of upward, the way sand buries bones. You step onto the porch and scoop a handful of it. It's cold, but not freezing, soft, almost warm. When it melts against your palm, it leaves behind a faint grey residue that smells faintly of iron and rain. By midday, the world is unrecognizable. Roofs sag under the weight of silence. The sky feels lower, pressing down like a hand. You walk to the square, where the fountain should be, but the basin has vanished beneath the strange snow. Only the statue's face remains above it, eyes turned skyward. For a moment, you think the flakes have stopped. Then you realize they're rising, lifting slowly, spiraling toward the clouds. A voice calls your name, distant, measured, impossible to tell from where. You turn, but the village is empty. The snow continues to rise, defying gravity, each flake spinning faster as it lifts. The air vibrates faintly, humming against your skin. A sound follows, thin and high, like the whine of glass about to break. The statue shudders, its stone hand cracks. The hum deepens until it becomes a rhythm, like breathing. The air smells of cold metal, of iron gone to rust. You step back as the flakes begin to glow. Each one burns for an instant, then fades. The sky brightens unnaturally, no sun, just light, blank, and directionless. For a heartbeat, you see shapes within the snow, human outlines forming and collapsing, faces blinking in and out of being. Then the glow dies, the flakes fall again, this time pure white, ordinary, innocent. When you return home, your footprints have vanished. The snow covers everything evenly, smooth as a shroud. Inside, the air feels damp and heavy. Your coat leaves faint grey streaks on the floorboards. You try to brush them away, but they spread instead, curling into delicate spirals, the same pattern that had filled the sky. By nightfall, the snow outside has turned to rain. It patters softly against the roof, washing away the last traces of ash. You almost believe it's over until you see the window. On the inside of the glass, where your breath has fogged it, someone has drawn a single mark, a small, perfect spiral. And in the center, pressed into the condensation, lies a single grey flake that hasn't melted at all. The rain doesn't stop for days. It falls in thin, relentless sheets, turning the fields into mirrors and the roads into streams. The bog beyond the mill swells with it, swallowing the low fences and the dead reeds. By evening, the whole valley smells of wet earth and something sweeter beneath it, decay softened by time. You tell yourself you won't go near the bog, not after what happened at the well, but curiosity moves through you like a fever. The path narrows as you approach, the ground slick, sucking at your boots. The mist rises from the water in long, grey ribbons. Somewhere beneath it, frogs croak low and steady, like the heartbeat of the land. Then you see it, a single flame hovering just above the surface. Small, golden, steady. It doesn't flicker, though the wind moves around it. It's too far to be a lantern, too bright to be reflection. You know the stories everyone does. They call them corpse candles, the lights that guide the living into the marsh when the dead want company. You should turn back, but the flame pulses once, as if breathing, and you step forward instead. The mud clings higher with every stride, cold and viscous, but the candle remains the same distance away. Its light shivers across the dark water, drawing you in. The air thickens, heavy as syrup. Your breath fogs the lantern glass in your hand. Though the night is warm, the path dissolves into waterlogged ground. You can't tell where land ends and bog begins. The candle lifts slightly higher, its glow pale now, tinged with blue. Then you hear it, a faint sound between whisper and song. Words maybe, though you can't make them out. They rise and fall like waves. You stop. The flame wavers, dimming as though it's waiting. You raise your lantern in reply, and the two lights seem to lean toward each other. The song grows clearer. A woman's voice, soft and distant, humming the lullaby your mother used to sing. The tune catches you off guard. It's perfect. Every note remembered. For a moment, you forget the cold, the dark, the mud pulling at your feet. Then the candle goes out. The sound stops with it. The darkness that follows isn't natural. It presses close, thick and heavy, as if the night itself has turned to water. You turn, but the path is gone. The ground gives way beneath you with a low, sucking sigh. The mud rises to your knees, your chest. You drop your lantern. Its light spins once, twice, then vanishes beneath the surface. Silence. The bog breathes again, slow, patient. Then, just before you lose your footing completely, the candle reappears beside you, floating inches from your face. It burns blue now, cold and perfect. Inside its flame you see a reflection to your own face, pale and still, eyes open. The candle drifts backward, leading you out. You follow, too weak not to. When you reach dry ground, dawn has broken. The bog lies still, covered in mist. You look back once. Dozens of small lights hover just above the surface, flickering faintly in the morning fog, not waiting, but watching. The rain finally ceases, leaving the air clean and thin as glass. A brittle calm settles over the valley, though it feels less like peace and more like the pause before something breathes in again. The fog clings to the low ground, and the smell of the bog still lingers, sweet, rotten, faintly metallic. You wake before dawn, your pulse still echoing the rhythm of the candle's song, and find your boots by the door, wet with mud, though you hadn't left the house. The path draws you north, past the fields and into the moor where the earth rises in slow, broken humps. No birds sing here. Even the wind sounds careful. You follow it until you see it standing alone on the ridge, a church of pale stone, tall and narrow, every line sharp as bone. You've never seen it before. It should not be here. No smoke rises from the chimneys. The bell tower leans slightly, its shadow pointing west. There are windows on every wall, black and hollow, but no door. You circle it once. The walls are smooth, seamless, the stone fitted so tight you could run your hand across the length of it without finding a single seam. Moss grows in thin, dark streaks down the corners. When you reach the side facing the bog, you hear it, faint singing, like a choir heard through water. The sound rises and falls, not in harmony, but in breath, dozens of voices exhaling together. You step closer to a window. It's narrow and high, but not too high to see through. Inside, candlelight flickers against the far wall. You can't see the floor, only rows of pews half sunk in shadow. The air smells faintly of wax and damp stone. You call out once, your voice cracking against the wind. The singing stops instantly. Silence rolls out of the church like smoke. Then, a sound soft, deliberate, the scrape of wood against stone, the pews shifting. You take a step back. The light inside flares, then dims again. You could swear someone has moved closer to the window. You see a shape there, just an outline, faint and human. It stands still, too still. Then it raises its hand. A pale palm pressed flat against the glass from the inside. The touch freezes you. The hand is wrong too long, the fingers tapering into thin, blackened tips. You stumble backward, but the palm follows your movement exactly, tracing the same shape against the other side of the wall. You whisper for it to stop. It does. The light dies completely, leaving only your reflection in the black glass, pale, trembling, with your own hand lifted in mirror. When you turn to leave, you notice the ground. The grass beneath your boots has browned to ash. The air is colder now, and the faint smell of burning wax clings to your clothes. As you walk away, the choir begins again, low, steady, and wordless. You glance back once. There's a door now, tall, black, open, and something standing inside it, watching. The fire feels wrong tonight. You build it the same way as always, kindling, pine, a log split clean through, yet the flames rise too fast, too high. The color isn't right either. It burns white at the base, bleeding into gray instead of orange. The air hums faintly, heavy with the smell of oil, and something sweeter, almost perfumed. You tell yourself it's the damp wood, the wind, the tricks of a long winter. But then the smoke begins to move. It doesn't climb, it flows, thick and low, curling along the floorboards like mist, tracing patterns in the air. You step back, heart quickening. The logs crack sharply once, twice, and the sound echoes through the small room as if you're not alone. The smoke gathers near the ceiling, spinning slowly, then folds in on itself, coiling into lines, into strokes, into letters. At first they make no sense, curling shapes that twist apart before you can read them. Then they settle. Your name, hanging there in the air above the hearth. It forms so carefully, so deliberately, that you forget to breathe. You whisper it aloud, and the letters tremble, smearing into the next drift of smoke. The scent changes again, not wood, not wax, but something sharp and iron-rich, like lightning striking too close. You step nearer. The name reforms. This time, the letters drip, as though written in liquid instead of ash. The window fogs over, though the cold can't reach this far. In the glass, you see your reflection, the room glowing behind you, your name burning above your shoulder. But your reflection is smiling. Its mouth moves once, soundless. Then the logs collapse in the grate, sending sparks across the floor. You drop to your knees to stamp them out, and when you look up again, the name has changed. 4 letters gone, 2 added. You can't read what's left. The word is close to yours, but not right. The shape of it heavier, darker. You whisper it anyway. The smoke freezes mid-air, thickening, turning solid for a heartbeat. A whisper answers, not from the chimney, but from behind you. You turn, fast. Nothing. The whisper comes again, closer now, gentle and familiar. It speaks the name, the new one, in your voice. The candle on the mantel gutters out. The fire flares one last time, then dies. Smoke fills the room, choking and warm, wrapping around you like cloth. You stumble to the window, pry it open, gasping for air. The night outside is calm. Stars, frost, silence. But the smoke doesn't leave. It presses against the open air as if held back by glass. A faint light glows inside it, swirling slowly. For a moment, it takes shape of face, your own again, smiling with too many teeth. Then it scatters into nothing. The air clears, the hearth lies cold, but the wall above it stays marked, faint black streaks forming a single word. Not your name, the one the smoke taught you. And when you whisper it, the ashes in the grate stir, answering like breath. You wake to silence so complete it feels like sound itself has died. The air is heavy, unmoving. Even the clock on the mantel has stopped, its pendulum frozen mid-swing. The moonlight lies across the floor in perfect stillness, sharp enough to cut. You lie there a long moment, listening for wind, for footsteps, for the small, ordinary noises that prove the world is still turning. Nothing. Then it comes. One knock. Soft, hollow, careful, like a question asked too quietly to be answered. It comes from the front door, not the gate, not the windows, the door. You sit up, pulse hammering. The sound comes again, precisely the same rhythm. One pause, one breath, one single knock. The air in the house shifts, as though the sound itself has weight. You rise, the boards creaking under your bare feet. The latch gleams faintly in the moonlight, a small, bright promise. You whisper to yourself that you won't open it. You whisper it twice more for good measure, but your hand moves anyway. You press your ear to the wood. Nothing, not even breathing. Then, a whisper, faint, almost human, threaded through the grain of the door. It says your name, not the one you were born with, the other, the one the smoke wrote. You stagger back. The candle on the table flares to life by itself, its flame tall and trembling. The walls seem to draw closer. The knock comes again, a sound so soft you might mistake it for your own heartbeat. Then the latch turns. You didn't touch it. The door creaks open an inch, then stops. Cold air spills in, tinged with the smell of damp earth and something older, something faintly sweet, like lilacs wilted on a grave. You want to close it, but your fingers refuse to move. Through the narrow gap, you can see only darkness, not night, not shadow, but a kind of absence that bends the light around it. From within it, a hand appears, pale and thin, pressing gently against the wood. It's not reaching in, it's waiting. You take one step closer. The air hums low, like a breath held too long. The candle gutters, throwing wild shadows that seem to move on their own. The hand on the door curls its fingers once, twice, a signal. You whisper, "Who's there?" And the voice from beyond answers softly, "You." The door swings wide. Cold swallows you. For a moment, the world goes utterly blank. No sound, no color, only a single sensation, falling forward into silence. When you open your eyes, the door is closed again. The candle burns low. The floor beneath your feet is damp, marked by a single footprint facing inward. You reach for the latch, but it won't move. On the other side, something knocks once more, not asking now, but reminding. You listen, frozen, as the sound fades into the quiet, until it feels like it's coming from inside your chest. One knock, then stillness, forever. The night finally ends, though the light that replaces it feels wrong, thin and brittle, more shadow than morning. The frost outside gleams pale gold beneath a sun that seems too distant to give warmth. The air tastes clean, sharp as metal. You wake on the floor beside the door, the candle burned to nothing but a blackened wick. The clock on the mantel ticks again, slow and steady, though you never wound it. You open the door expecting darkness, but the world is washed in grey. The village lies quiet. Smoke rises from no chimneys. The snow from the night before has melted into a thin, colourless mist that curls around your boots. The silence feels heavier than before, but softer somehow, as if whatever it was that moved through the valley has finally settled. You start down the lane, every step loud against the frozen ground. The houses all stand open, doors ajar, curtains drawn back, tables set as they were on the night of the hollow feast, plates clean, cups drained. A few chairs are overturned, but there's no sign of panic, no struggle. It looks like the whole village simply stood up and walked out. The wind sighs faintly through the cracks, carrying the faint scent of smoke, lilacs, and iron. When you reach the square, the fountain runs again, clear water spilling over stone worn smooth by time, but the reflection isn't yours. The surface trembles, showing faces instead, dozens of them, half familiar, pale, and still. Their mouths don't move, but their eyes follow you as you pass. You whisper a prayer, the same one your grandmother taught you when you were small. The words fall flat in the cold air. By the church, the widow's bell lies split upon the ground. Its bronze skin is dull, cracked clean through, the clapper missing. You kneel beside it and touch the edge. It's warm. A faint vibration hums through your fingertips, like a heartbeat far away. You look toward the moor and see the pale outline of the church without a door, standing dark against the sky. For a moment, the windows flicker with faint light, then fade. You turn home as the sun begins to rise higher, though it brings no color. The light spreads slow and white across the rooftops. At the edge of your path, you stop. Someone has left a bowl of milk on your doorstep. Steam curls gently from its surface. You didn't leave it there. You lift it carefully. The milk is warm, thick with sweetness. When you set it down again, you notice the prints in the frost beside it. Small, bare feet walking away from the door and into the morning. You stand there a long time, watching the mist lift from the fields, listening to the quiet pulse of the world waking up again. Somewhere far off, a crow calls once, then is silent. The year has turned. The dead have gone back to their rest. But when you close your door, the air inside greets you with the faint scent of smoke and the sound of a single heartbeat, not yours, but patient, steady, and still very much alive.